Or Robin. So that was 5:18 for the recess, and we'll call back to order. It is 5:19. And the town of Smithers acknowledges the Gittenden plan and notes of the people on whose unceded traditional territory we live, work, and play. And the public is notified the meeting is being recorded and webcast, a notice of which is on the bulletin boards outside these chambers. And council, you have an agenda, no supplemental. Motion to approve, please. Councilor Buchanan, Councilor Raven, all in favor, opposed, and that's carried unanimously. And welcome. Sorry, I didn't say that. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so first up then is the delegation. Mr. Keatsman, we're going to go back to you, and council does have the documents that were circulated, so we can follow along, or you can guide us through as you wish. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Attrell and council. My name is Steve Keatsman. I work for a firm called Bahora LLP, and we were engaged as independent auditors to audit the financial statements of the town of Smithers for the year ended December 31st, 2023. So what do we do as auditors? We are independent of the town, and the output of what we do is we express an opinion on whether or not we believe the financial statements that are being presented today are materially correct. The work is much more than just looking at the numbers. We also review the controls around the major systems and cycles within the town. We review council minutes to ensure that the motions that are carried and the bylaws that are passed by council are in fact implemented by the town on a timely basis. And we came out in January to do our interim work, and we came out in March to do the final field work, and we're now in a position where we believe we have gathered sufficient audit evidence to express an unqualified opinion, and I believe that there's a copy of that unqualified audit opinion in the package on the financial statements of the town of Smithers for the year ended December 31st, 2023. And I'd like to, pending approval, pending council's approval of those financial statements, we are in a position to date and issue our audit report. Just like to take this opportunity to express our thanks to William and Neje and the rest of the finance team for all of their assistance throughout the audit process. The town is very fortunate to have a very competent and experienced team in their employ. So thank you very much. Mayor Attrell, do you want to actually work through the details of the financial statements and me touch on key points?
Well, that works for me. I think that's probably helpful. And I was just going to let you know, because I forgot to earlier, Mr. Wallace is in the room. We have some other staff in the room now that were in the open meeting. Just so you
Okay.
know, you're saying nice things and he heard them. It's all good. Everyone loves that. Yeah,
I
being
notice.
generally, I think would be helpful.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to try and figure out how to do that. I suppose, can I share my screen? Would that be the easiest way to do it?
Yes, most likely.
Okay, if you just be patient with the with the guy who doesn't have the technical savvy of a.
You got it.
Can everybody see the
We see it.
document?
Yeah, we've got it.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, and William, please feel free at any point in time to jump in and comment on things that I've potentially missed. But the first statement that I'd like to present is the consolidated statement of financial position. Some of you might know this as a balance sheet. And it lists all of the assets, liabilities, and the town's position at a particular point in time. The point in time being December 31st, 2023, compared to December 31st, 2022. Now, the first category that we have are financial assets. Now, financial assets are either cash or amounts that are going to be converted into cash in the near future, or in some instances not so near future, like cash and investments. These are all of the cash and bank accounts, the MFA and other investments held by the town. And as we can see here, there's been an increase from $24.6 million to $30.5 million between 2022 and 2023. Next up, we have grants and other accounts receivable. These have gone up slightly by about $250,000 over the previous fiscal year. And what we do with those grants and accounts receivable is we look subsequent to year end to see what's actually collected by the town. And, you know, if amounts haven't been collected by the date we sign off on the audit, we've made pretty sure that we've agreed all of these receivables to approved grant letters. So with a high degree of confidence, we can say that we believe that that $1.57 million worth of receivables is collectible. Now, the deposits municipal financial authority, that's $65,000. What that is money that is being retained by the MFA that relates to the debt that you have with the MFA. It's kind of what would you call it? It's like a guarantee, William.
Yes, that's good.
Guarantee works. Okay. So that money is sitting there. So when I said that some of that money might not be coming back to you in a hurry, that $64,000 will only be kind of refunded once the debt is paid off. And then the next up, there's an investment in Wet'suwet'en Management Services Limited. What this is the community forests in which the town has it's the company that manages the community forests in which the town has a 50% stake. And what William has done in 2023 is he's included the financial results of the Community Forest Operating Corporation in the notes to the financial statements. So feel free to peruse note 7, which will give you more detail. Next up is the liabilities. This is money that's owed to third parties. First up is accounts payable and accrued liabilities, and that has gone up from 2.7 to $3.6 million. And the reason that it's gone up is because of some large payables around year end pertaining to capital projects. And all of these references, note 8, in fact, I'll go down to note 8. You'll see a breakdown of what makes up that accounts payable and accrued liabilities. So let's scroll down. So here's a breakdown of what makes up the accounts payable. We can see that payroll payables and payroll benefits accrued at year end are approximately the same as the previous year. This includes everything from payroll wage accruals to the vacation, to the bank time, etc. Trade payables, as I said, has gone up, as has contract holdbacks. Mark gets holdbacks on all of the capital projects, really, to guarantee performance from the contractors and the vendors. And this is the primary reason why accounts payable has gone up over 2022, is those big capital projects. So I'm going to scroll back to the statement of financial position. Next up, we have the MFA, which matches the asset. Deferred revenues have gone up quite significantly in 2023 when compared to 2022. They've gone up by $2 million. Now, if we go to note 9, we can see that the primary reason for deferred revenue. Now, what deferred revenue is you've received dollars into your bank account that have been specifically given to the town for certain capital projects. They can only be spent on those capital projects. So what William and Najee will do is, as money is spent on those capital projects, this revenue is then released into the income statement to to fund those capital projects. So the primary reason for the increase of $2 million is capital grant project monies that fulfill that criteria that have been received in advance. And they'll find their way into the income statement in 2024 and subsequent years to fund projects. This is part of the reason why, and I don't want to be bouncing around too much here. This is part of the reason the increase in deferred revenue is part of the reason why your cash has increased by $6 million over the 2 year ends. Next up is debt, and this is all MFA debt, which is being paid in accordance with the payment schedules, and there was no new debt acquired in the fiscal year. Next up, we have a new item on the balance sheet called the asset retirement obligation. This is a new accounting standard that has come into force for the 2023 fiscal year, that requires all entities that report under public sector accounting standards to identify assets within the organization that potentially could contain asbestos or lead paint or other types of hazardous materials, and set up a liability for the possible remediation of those assets when it comes time to either demolish or renovate those assets. Would that be a fair description of the standard, William?
Yes.
So it's not a true liability that needs to be funded today. The way it works is it's increased the carrying value of the asset and increase this liability. So, as an example, if one of the assets that the ARO has been booked on is subsequently sold to a third party, this asset retirement obligation would cease to exist. It's also, I think, important to note that, you know, I'm not an engineer, and none of these assets, correct me if I'm wrong, William, none of these assets actually have an immediate risk in terms of the health and safety of any of the employees of the town. You know, it is merely something that potentially would need to be considered if somebody took a hammer and started bashing walls down. So I, in my own personal opinion, and I hope we don't have anybody from the Institute of Chartered Professional Accountants on the line, but to me, this is window dressing more than anything else. In terms of financial reporting, because we all know that if there were plans in place to demolish or remediate any of these buildings, council would approve the money to do so via your budgeting, your capital budgeting process, and that would be remediated as and when council chose to do the work. So hopefully I've given you a reasonable explanation there. It's nothing to be concerned about, but the standards require municipalities to now have this number in their financial statements. We then get to a number that is called the net financial assets. That's total financial assets less financial liabilities. What that number means is if at 31st of December 2023, the city had collected all of their accounts receivable and paid everything that was owed, there'd be a net cash balance of $19,000 left over. We then have non-financial assets. Now, what non-financial assets are? Assets that cannot readily be converted into cash. These include tangible capital assets. These are buildings, infrastructure, roads, land, etc., owned by the town. And the reason that it's increased from 69.9 million in 2022 to 74 million in 2024 is the asset additions as a result of the capital projects that have been undertaken by the town. Prepaid expenses and supplies inventory. These are supplies at the public works yard and up at the airport, and also expenses that have been paid in advance of actually being incurred, deposits on vehicles, software licenses, etc. The sum of your net financial assets and your non-financial assets gives you the town position. Now, the town position is $94 million, and I think it's the easiest way to explain the town's position is to go to Schedule 2. If I'm moving too slowly or too quickly, please interrupt me. I'm not going to be offended. This here is the magical sheet that summarizes the town's position. We can see here the $94 million, which agrees to the statement of financial position. Now, what makes up that $94 million? First of all, we have equity in tangible capital assets. This is money that has already been spent on tangible capital assets. So this dollar value, this $69 million is the total tangible capital assets less the debt still outstanding on those assets, less the asset retirement obligation gives you the 60. So this money has already been spent, 69 of the $94 million. The town also has $18.4 million in reserves, and that's up from the $15 million in the previous year. And a few new reserves were created in the year. And we can see that this money, $6.5 million has been added to the reserves in the year, but $3.8 million has been used from, $3.7 million has been used from these reserves in the year to fund the addition of tangible capital assets. And part of the work that we do, we ensure that all of these transfers to and from the reserves have either been approved through the annual budgeting process via the 5-year financial plan, or the council motions that are enacted throughout the year. Last up, we have the restricted and unrestricted surplus. These are dollars that are actually available to be spent, and those dollars have gone up slightly from $6.5 million to $6.9 million between the 2022 and the 2023 fiscal. I'm just going to quickly draw your attention to the breakdown. If you want to see the breakdown of like more detail of what makes up these reserves and surpluses, note 13 will give you a detailed breakdown of exactly what makes up the $18 million equity and tangible capital assets and where the surpluses are by function. I'm just quickly going to touch on the income statement, or the statement of operations as it's referred to. This basically gives a breakdown of all of the revenue that's come into the town and all of the expenditures in the year. So the biggest item of expenditure of revenue is property taxes. We do work around the property taxes. We ensure that for the property taxes that all homeowners are effectively being billed in accordance with BC assessment and the taxation bylaws. That's the biggest item. You can see that the government grants and transfers have increased significantly, by $3.3 million over the previous fiscal year. This is mainly capital funding that's come in for capital projects, and then service charges and user fees have also increased by $1.1 million over the previous fiscal year. And we also have things like gains on disposals of capital assets, property property sales, etc., that are typically once-offs. And so revenue of 26 million, expenditures of 19 million, giving us an excess revenue of, and expenditure of $6.3 million for the year. But to us boring accountants, this statement of financial position is kind of truly gives a true reflection of the financial health of an organization at a particular point in time. The town of Smithers is in a healthy financial position. So, have I covered, in your opinion, the key salient points here, William? Or is there anything you would like me to add, or you yourself add?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking around the table, so if there's any questions, I'll have them from council to you, but I think you've led us through fairly clearly. I'm not seeing any questions. So I think unless there's something specific that you wanted to draw our attention to, I think people are feeling pretty comfortable. Okay. Thank you for your work, for your attendance here this evening, and for being available for council questions. We very much appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's probably it. Mr. Wallace, any concluding statements?
I just want to thank Fahora for their work and their effort on the town's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you too, William.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm just gonna regather myself here on the agenda. So wanting the statements adopted, Mr. Wallace?
Yes, please.
That's the moment in time you've been waiting for.
So.
Councillor Buchanan moves, Councillor Leonard seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. The motion Mr. Wallace was waiting for. So thanks so much for all your work. Mr. Keatsman as well. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, and have a good evening all.
Thank you, you as well.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. There was no. Okay. Alrighty then, let's carry on. So next up we have 14.2 report from Mr. Lee, form and character for Main Street. I see Ms. Chandran is here as well, so there is a staff recommendation. Council, what's your pleasure? Do you have questions, comments? Recommendation then? Councillor Raven moves recommendation. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ray seconds. Okay, and discussion? I'm not hearing any discussion. Okay, me, then I have one. And it's a question through to staff. So there was in the narrative, and I appreciate it. So I think I'm on the right report. This is the main report. Yeah. So there was a reference at some point here by staff that this was maybe a stray from the mountain theme, and I'm just looking for some feedback from staff how that's dealt with. It's the color theme, and it's not that the colors aren't beautiful, but it's outside the theme, and I'm just wondering how that conversation goes back and forth between a proponent and staff when it happens. So I'm looking at both of you, but I don't know who to actually start with. Mr. Allen, and you can toss it across the floor if you want to.
Sure. I'll start. Thanks, Mayor Mitchell. And Ms. Chandran can save me at any time. But yes, staff through our technical review meetings with applications, we do go through the application and see how in the development permits for forming character, how it conforms with the design guidelines and the OCP. And yes, we have changed from our alpine theme to the mountain theme with the latest OCP change. That's 2 years ago. It hasn't, we're slowly testing it, the new mountain theme, but as far as colors go, yes, the blue on the facade is the main change to the building. I don't think we show an existing, but the existing is basically more of a beige or cream colored facade, and it is a big change or a bold shift to the blue. We do not, both in the previous design guidelines and the current ones, we do not specify a color palette in the OCP, so there's nothing really for developers or owners to select from as far as colors go. We do just have the basic guideline of earth tones. And I believe that is captured in the attachment 3, the OCP section there. So yeah, this blue is a little outside of the norm. Normally we see the browns, beige, white colors. We did discuss the blue being more possibly a water color, which is could be considered an earth tone. But that's just, if, it could be council's prerogative is to request a change in any of the aspects of the application. That's always the case. But staff have, through our, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have reviewed the current guidelines, and the application does appear to, apply in general. I think all the other aspects are meeting the guidelines to a T with the wooden framing and the other accents around the windows and around the main entrance. So we think that's all captured really well. So I'll just leave it there for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think Mr. Allen's been here long enough to know that sort of the form and character are things that I pay attention to. It's not really a reflection on the quality of the design, but we have a theme, and it's, theme works if people adhere to the theme, then you actually get a cohesive street. And I think one of the things that Smithers has been complimented on for decades is a cohesive theme. So it's changing, but there is still a remnant talking about colors. So I just wondered how that was reflected back. So it's not a hill I'm going to die on, but I think we will over time see something that is less cohesive downtowns. Anyone else? Councilor Wright.
Sorry, I'm gonna support it, not because the staff recommended it, but I am a little bit concerned that if we're gonna get fairly bold colors, solid block like that, it's gonna end up looking more like a maritime village. And this is an attractive color to me. I don't know if everybody remembers when the building downtown was painted garish, bright pink or purple. And the community did not like that. So love to see how this goes, but we may need to look at a color palette so we don't end up with every color under the rainbow.
Yeah, thanks, Councilor Ray. I mean, I actually do agree with that. And I do appreciate that staff worked really hard to help proponents get through and try to find ways to make things work. I can't help but say the water's clear. Sorry. The sky is blue, it reflects, but anyway, that's just my cheeky comment for this. I'm not going to vote against it. I'm just sort of voicing a concern that I think, if we have a vision for downtown, then we need to uphold the vision. And once upon a time, it was much more difficult to get through. There were requirements for facades, for window boxes, for painting, for frescoes. We've come a long way from that, and I think that's the will of the people downtown. And at the same time, it is the people downtown who appreciate the theme. So somewhere we have to wrestle in the desire for an individual to spend their money on a building as they choose, and yet still to get a theme downtown that reflects, something that people want to be a part of. And I think the building owners here, the business owners do an exceptional job, but it's a hard one when, you know, we step away, and this is not the first building, there's been other buildings where it's been a real struggle to get people to, uphold the elements of the theme. Okay. Councilor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Actual question through to staff. Is it normal for municipalities to explore a color palette related to the theme? I'm just thinking about potentially making a motion based on what we've heard from other councilors, but I'm just curious if that's standard practice first. Thank you.
Ms. Chandler, if you like whoever.
No, I'll start. Ms. Chandra, she might have some other experience that I have, but since I've been in the business, I guess. There hasn't been a direct palette, but I know they do exist in other municipalities. Very, very stringent color palettes that buildings, you know, along the main streets must comply with. So it's just something that the town has not explored.
Ms. Chapman, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I completely agree with Mark's statements, and so one of the main reasons for updating the design guidelines in the OCP was to enable more flexibility and also to recognize communities changing expectations on the design expectations, especially incorporating a contemporary element within the mountain theme requirements. So the local government, any local government can establish a clear color palette. However, it can be if we are going it very stringent, then it's going to have adverse impacts as well. So there are pros and cons. Thank you.
Thanks, and I acknowledge that we did just go through, we're doing the OCP again for different reasons, but we did just go through that process, so I acknowledge that was a big public process as well. Councillor Patterson, if there was something that you wanted to add.
Maybe I'll wait. Your worship, we'll just have a conversation and then I'll come back. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? The staff recommendation is on the floor. Are you ready? All in favor? Any opposed? And it carries unanimously. Okay, we have report for information from Ms. Andren on the short-term rental legislation. So if there's questions, she's here. I just want to comment on the level of work that I know development services, Ms. Chandra, and the consultants have been doing to deal with the changes in provincial legislation. So everything looks really nice and tidy when you give us a report, even when it's a long report. But I just want to acknowledge the amount of work and input that you're taking from people. So thank you very much for that. Council, is there any questions or comments? Ms. Chandra? Councilor.
So I was here for part of the presentation on this, and I understand the reason for not opting in. But I'm a little concerned when I see that we could have the province doing the enforcement on this if we opted in. What's the advantage to us doing enforcement rather than the province?
Ms. Chandra?
Thank you to Councillor Ray through Mayor Adjo. So the main advantage that I can think of not opting in is that there are several STRs that are currently operating from downtown core. And so if you are looking in terms of the function of an STR, it's very much like a hotel use, and perfectly fits within the commercial fabric of downtown. It's not like operating an STR from a residential area where the potential for conflicts with neighbors and public is more. So an STR from operating from downtown, it fits much better compared to an STR in residential area, and for that reason, the town may continue STR, or town may permit STR as a permitted auxiliary use in downtown, which is not the case at present. So if we had opted in for a principal residence requirement, none of those STRs would have been permitted under the provincial legislation. So those units either would have been required to either converted into long-term rental units or hotel units. So there are pros and cons, but this is something that if the town, so if the town had to opt in, we had to, the town had to send the resolution before March 31st. However, we have the same opportunity in the coming years as well. So if the town believes that having a principal residence requirement is for the community's benefit, council can send such a resolution before the 31st of March next year as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so they essentially made a mess up at the upper levels by not getting on this immediately. It's kind of too bad. I think that we can't just grandfather in everybody that has one and not allow any others. That probably would have been the easiest way. So I appreciate the staff's work on it. It's going to be a mess to try and take care of either way, the licensing requirements, the follow-up. I don't know if we'll get into it a little bit with the requests for people wanting, sorry, hang on a second.
Exemption.
For people wanting exemptions. But the one thing that really jumped out to me about that is they're asking for exemptions. They didn't have any building inspection. So how safe are these? And it's kind of too bad that the province hadn't foreseen this coming when Airbnb first came in and maybe jumped on that requirement. So I think it's going to be a bit of a mess to unwind. And the one thing I did want to say to staff is you heard from pretty much only people that had a vested interest because they already had short-term rentals. And I saw some of the comments as being, like Frank stated, oh my gosh, as rather self-serving. So I just want to make sure that when we go out to the community, we go out to the general community as well, and get maybe a more holistic view of what the community feels about short-term rentals.
Thanks, Councilor Ray. Anyone else? Councilor Ray.
I just think building on that, I know this is a subject that comes up quite often for me, and like reading this report is where we, like when I look at that Smithers area has over 100 STR listings on various platforms, like that's significant. I know they're not all in Smithers and all in downtown, but it's just something to think about is when we hear again and again from employers and people that have lived through all their lives and they can't find places to rent, and then you see the short-term rentals cropping up, it's a bit disheartening. And I understand that in the downtown core, like it does blend seamlessly with commercial, but at the same time, I think it also blends seamlessly with walkability and long-term rentals, where people would be able to come and live on Main Street and not have to drive in and commute. So, and also I'm a huge fan on eyes on Main Street. So when people live here and they care about the community, and if they see something happening, they're far more likely to help out rather than someone just here on a vacation. So. But definitely, I'm very interested to see what the public feedback is. I understand it's going to take 2 to 3 months, and I do appreciate the time and effort that has gone in up to this point as well.
Thanks, Councilor Raven. Anyone else? Yeah, just a couple of things. It's nothing's ever as clear as I think it is at the beginning. Generally, I certainly support the continuation of short-term rentals downtown and that kind of business core where we would have hotels anyway. We do have the ability still, to provide the permissive tax exemption, if that's the right word, for people who are developing long-term rentals downtown. So we do have ways to incentivize different things if we want to, and we've done that. So I think there's still room, but the people who have built, short-term rental, particularly the one with multiple rooms, that's especially a hotel, like I think I favor finding a way to legalize that, and I think that's an opportunity that we will do through the zoning or whatever the regulations are. I also can support short-term rentals, the single, like the within the residence. And I think this is a chance where we do catch up, as Councillor Ray had said, I think I asked this Chandler at one of the meetings, like, did we have business licenses for some of the, like, in the old days, you had bed and breakfast. They were running as a business. If you're just listing on a platform such as Verbo or Airbnb, it's still a business within either within your home or one that you're running externally. It ought to be treated like a business, I think. I can make all of that make sense, and then there's probably gonna be some messiness, as Councillor Ray said, as people try to find their way, but I think the feedback that was received and additional feedback that we may get with the more extensive outreach, if that's what's, if we're able to do that, will help us guide, but I think the process, first of all, we have to do the process. So that's back to, we could like it or not, but we're gonna do the process to figure out how this lands, so we make sure we update our regulations to conform with the province. And so then I think just trying to come up with something as good as possible for the community, so that we have some short-term rentals where they don't make sense, we can convert some back to long-term rentals. And I do know that some people are gonna be caught and perhaps unhappy, but we're gonna fit in because we have to fit in. So I'm thankful for the work that staff are doing, the help we have consulted, and we'll just get through it as best we can. And I think where you need our help, come to us or send us a note or get us if you want us to help with engagement. So this is a big and a messy piece of work, and I really appreciate how you're taking it. Councillor.
Sorry, just a couple more things I thought of. First of all, question through the staff. If these are going to have business licenses and everything, are we able to collect 3% hotel tax on these short-term rentals?
Currently, I just know the answer to that. So anyone who's listed on Airbnb or certain platforms, they are collected. So yes, it's the answer. We don't collect, they're required to pay.
But if they're not listed on a platform right now?
That's right, there's a way through it, but if you're selling on a platform, the platforms collect from the guest and submit the tax. So there's always someone who can slip through, but some of the platforms have signed agreements with the province. It's connected to the PST.
Okay, and then the other thing that, this is just more of a comment going forward. But the more short-term rentals we allow, the more it inflates the value of any other rental. Because if you can get even $100 a night for a one-bedroom apartment, that's $3,000 a month. So why would you have a short or a long-term rental? That's part of the economics of it, and it's also confusing the right for people to do what they want with their houses and etc. So, but I do think that it has inflated the long-term rental rents.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. I don't disagree with that. Ms. Chandler, go ahead.
So these are some of the questions that we will be discussing with hotel owners next week. So one idea is the town can permit STR as an auxiliary use in C1 zone, town center commercial zone, that's along Main Street, and not permit in the C1A downtown commercial zone. That's the rest of the downtown between King, Main, and King, and like Main and Queen on the other side. So if a highly flexible approach to regulating STR is going to adversely impact hotel businesses, so this would be something that we need to hear from the hotel owners.
Thanks, Ms. Shannon. Yeah, I think more to come on this as we go.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sense I'm at right now. And do you have a sense yet of like another opportunity like this when you would think you're coming back to council to give us another update?
Yeah, sure. Once we will have the engagement done, we will have finished all the engagement aspects, we can come back with an engagement summary report. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that would be nice because we get that sense of what's going on before you're fully invested in where you think you're going, because you're going to have to write some stuff more formally. So that would probably be comforting for me, speaking for me. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Adjul. Yeah, sure. We can come up with like a summary of the discussions that we had at various meetings, and also options under zoning bylaw and business and fees and charges as well, so that we can, like, these can be presented to council before presenting the draft bylaws for the readings. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I think that would be helpful for me, so. Okay, any other comments? And I'm sorry, Councillor, you mentioned it. I had meant to bring forward 17.1 and 18.3, but I guess we'll just go past them when we do, unless you want to bring them forward to talk about them now. It's a little awkward, but it was my misstep.
We can just do it.
Okay, we'll just leave them where they are. Thanks, sorry about that. Okay, no motions required here. So we are at 16.1, so we have the bylaw 1966 for adoption. Someone like for adoption. Councillor Raymond moves. Councillor Ray seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And we have 16.2 bylaw 1967. We probably want to think about this. My eyes are on you, Mr. Wallace. I just couldn't resist.
I have an amendment to move.
Pardon? Okay, enough toying with our finance officer who's worked long and hard. Okay, would someone like to move adoption, please? Councillor Bucco, I'm forgetting everyone's names, and a seconder, please. Councillor Leonard, please. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. All right. 16.3, property tax bylaw for adoption. Councillor Ray, Councillor Buchanan, discussion. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. We've got one more to do. I just wanted to take that moment to say thank you again to Mr. Wallace and your team for getting us here. It's been a long haul and you've had to drag us along through understanding over the months, and we appreciate that. We might not always have looked like we appreciated it, but we appreciate it. Thanks for your work. Alrighty, so now bylaw 1969 for adoption, parks and open spaces. Councillor Raymond. Councillor Buchanan, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Okay. And then correspondence, we do have 17.1. This was the letter from Ms. Anderson. And I don't know that there's a particular reason why 18.3 isn't in the 17. So let's just, if you're okay, let's just move it forward. Councillor Ray, Councillor Patterson, we'll just bring those two forward. Sorry, we'll bring 18.3 to 17. One, I'm just looking back to the reporting team to see if you're all good. Okay, great. So Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Worship. A question to the staff. If I was to make a motion, assuming you may need one specific to granting an extension, is there a timeline that staff would recommend?
Ms. Chandler. Sorry, Ms. Chandler.
Thank you to Councillor Patterson through Mayor Adjel. So it depends on implementing the town's STR regulations. Depends on as to when all the bylaws will be adopted. So if we take, like as mentioned in the previous staff report, the expected timeline to complete all these amendments is like the maximum is 3 months. So, but in case there is any delay, like the danger of having a resolution that specifically states the exact time is in case the town doesn't meet that bylaw amendments by the exact specific date, then it's no longer valid. So so from that perspective, it's better to state broadly delaying the enforcement until the amendments are in place.
Thanks, Ms. Chandran. I'm just gonna look to Mr. Dewar for some clarification. We chatted about this as well. Do we need to make a motion, or can we understand that until we have a regulation that things are going to ride? And this relates back to we deal with complaints. So Mr. Dewar, maybe.
Yes, our bylaw system is complaint driven, and so at this point in time, we've had two letters come in formally. But we've heard from several members of the community that there is concerns about this. And it's certainly one that, you know, if council's not directing us to enforce and no complaints, we can just carry about business as usual.
And is there any risk in your opinion with, and we all know the legislation's changing and it's our intent to comply. Is there any external risk if we just sort of let it slide until we get the regulations done?
I don't see any risk, no.
Councilor Ring.
I don't really want to put any kind of time on it, but the longer things are delayed, like, okay, so I've got stuff booked for this summer, okay. If we don't enforce, are they also going to book for next summer after that? I'm just wondering if we weren't a governing body and this was a negotiation, that would be, we're not gonna enforce it, but don't book anymore. So I don't know how to put that into a motion. Because I really don't think we should be enforcing anything other than if somebody has a short-term rental that's patently dangerous and wouldn't, you know, need a do not occupy order or something like that. Obviously, that would still be something we would. But the rules were changed. Some of the rules were changed and people didn't know about them or follow them. But the big thing that triggers all this is, of course, the provincial changes. So that's my only concern about not enforcing is how long do we let people just continue to operate? It's essentially now an illegal business. How much understanding do we have and how much do we just say, okay, we're not going to enforce it, but please don't book anything past, you know, May 31st or December 31st of this year or something like that.
Yeah, I see where you're going. I guess the one thing is that probably every short-term rental owner understands their own borrowed time now. You know, we've indicated even through some of this conversation in this public meeting and in some of the engagement sessions that were hosted, that, you know, that there was a general intention that some short-term rental would continue, for example, once they're Main Street hotel zone. But if someone is operating a multi-unit short-term rental in a residential area in which they don't live, they're probably understand the ratings on the wall. And so at some point, individual, they're going to be assuming that risk. So I don't know, you use December 31st, but Ms. Chandran, is your anticipation to be through this before then?
Thank you to Mayor Adjel. So based on the current workload and also the progress we have made so far, my understanding is that we can finish within like the 3-month timeline that was stated in the staff report is the maximum.
Sorry, I thought I heard 18 months.
Thank you.
Oh, no, that's fine. I mean, this is the time to try to catch it up. I mean, nothing precludes staff from bringing something back sooner if they're ready, or if they need something from us as well. It's determined that there's a different direction required. I guess with that information, I feel comfortable leaving it, and then staff will bring it back when they're ready. And if something goes haywire, you can just let us know and we'll deal with new information when we get it, I think. Does that work for Councilor?
Sorry, now hearing that it's going to come back in 90 days. I just wonder if there's a way to put something in the bylaw about enforcement will begin on such and such a date. I mean, I'm assuming people have things booked out past 90 days and they don't really want to catch them because we completed the bylaws and then we're enforcing.
I don't really know how we fix that. You know, we're hearing those stories across the province with people who have short-term rental businesses, that there are some dire consequences for folks. But you know, I'm gonna take some comfort in the fact that we're complying, we're gonna comply with what we have to. So. Again, right now, I'm comfortable just letting it be, if we're looking at a 3-month window. Councillor Patterson, I think that's where you were going to give people notice, so people basically are on notice, I think, right now. And so for the folks that are looking for exemptions, everybody's sort of got this 3-month-ish window. And some of them will find that they're on the legalized side later, if they can comply with the new regulations, and some will not. And that's, you know, there's gonna be an unfortunate catchment there, but Ms. Chandler, if I misspoken, anything that's different than how you see it rolling out?
Thank you to Mayor Ashell. Yeah, I agree with your perspective, and yeah, I don't see any issue in achieving the 3-month timeline.
Okay. So I guess the only thing I'd invite you is if for some reason you know that's gonna be different, things happen, then just let us know. You know, keep us posted if things are gonna look vastly different for whatever reason. Councillor Ray, go ahead.
Sorry, I need to be difficult. I'm just wondering if the writers of this letter could be informed that we intend to have the bylaws in place within 90 days.
You wanna just make that motion that we respond with that information to the writers of these letters?
Yes, that sounds like an awesome. I'm so.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson is seconding, and now, back to the recording corner. Was there enough information there for you, so that we'll just respond to the writers of, the letters that were labeled 17-1 and 18-3 and inform them that we anticipate a 3-month completion? Okay, Ms. Chandler.
Thank you to Mayor Ashell. So this was a concern that we heard from most of the attendees at the last engagement sessions. So although we have received only 2 letters, this is a concern raised by all the participants. So instead of applying this extension only to the 2 properties, my suggestion would be to apply to all STR operators, so that we won't be getting like more and more letters from other applicants as well.
Good, Councillor Ray.
So the intention, these are the only 2 that have made the attempt to ask for an exemption. My expectation would be that they get letters. And then maybe perhaps our communications officer can put something out or even send something to everybody that attended and commented at the public meetings. You know, saying pretty much the same thing.
Mr. Jordan.
I was just gonna say, we do have a stakeholder correspondence list, so we can certainly just share the information with that.
Okay, and then we'll just respond to the 2 people that took time to write us letters. Particularize for the motion, so that motion on the floor. People good to vote on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we'll respond to the people who have written to us, and we'll share the information with them. Mr. Jordan?
The 2 people that have written to us are also on the stakeholder correspondence list, so is it all right if we just push it out through that group?
That's right. They're gonna get informed, I guess that's the intention. Yeah. Okay, so sadly, we have already voted on the motion, can we, I love backing things up.
We'll send direct letters to these 2 individuals as well, send a letter out to the correspondence group.
Thanks for the save. Okay. We're good. I commented that this one's gonna be messy, I didn't mean necessarily for us, but there we go, we're in there too. Okay, anything else out of the 18th, council? Okay, not seeing any. I'll just point out the invitation. I've probably most council have seen it to Seabridge for their open house. And okay. So I think at this point, I'm looking at Mr. Schroeder. We're going to recess this meeting and move to the committee of the whole. So I will take this moment. We're recessed now. And if anyone needs a break, why don't you take your It's 6:28. How about 7 minutes? We'll start at 6:35. And we'll start with the committee of the whole. Okay. You got 7 minutes.
Hi there.
I wanted to ask you earlier, I never did a cow meeting before. Do we not adjourn this meeting and then go into new meeting?
We have to call this meeting back to order so we can go in camera after.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
we're
it's just a weird
recessing
confusion.
And then we're just sneaking into the next one with no actual adjournment until the end of the cow.
Yes, exactly. We'll be calling the special back to order.
Okay.
They're two different meetings, but
Yep.
we're going back in camera under the special meeting.
Okay.
And then we'll be
So the
adjourning the
cow is
meetings
inside
after.
the special.
No,
Okay.
it's in between and it's its own standalone separate meeting.
Ugh, okay.
Don't worry, it's confusing. Oh, thank you. Sure. Is it? These. Yes.
Yes.
Wait.
Okay.
Oh, y'all sent it to me as a PDF? Oh my gosh, y'all are not here to make my life easy today, are you?
Who did it?
I left some shredding on your.
Oh, thank you. Oh, have
No,
a good
thank
night.
you.
You're heading out.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? I need to keep the record safe and secure, so.
What's that? Sunday. Late tonight?
Yes, yeah, because you're like, oh,
I'm working tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow night.
Like, oh, I have a previous.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's actually like, it's a safety week, so I have to
That's so boring.
show up at work and cook burgers for people. We had planned it a long time.